Boogie Woogie is a curse technique that has grabbed the hearts of all Jujutsu Kaisen fans. The cursification of Aoi Todo's brazen and over-the-top personality given form through his curse technique. Boogie Woogie is a unique ability, to say the least. If not in its curse technique's actual power itself, being teleportation or position switching, it is unique in its activation method, both in the past and during the present. In this video, I will ask you 4 questions. Number 1, what was Boogie Woogie like before Shinjuku? Number 2, what is Boogie Woogie like now during Shinjuku? Number 3, what are the differences between these two versions of Boogie Woogie? And question number 4, why aren't you subscribed, man? I mean, I'm going to try and cover some more JJK trending topics, so if you want more, make sure to like and subscribe. So, what was Boogie Woogie like? More specifically, what was it like during the Goodwill event, as well as during Shibuya? Old Boogie Woogie, or just Boogie Woogie, as a technique was revealed to us during the showdown with Hanami versus Yuji and Todo. And since this is the fight that the technique is revealed to the audience, we also get little bits of exposition during the fight, explaining everything we need to know about the technique to understand the fight, as well as some extra things about Boogie Woogie that people seem to forget or don't really understand. So let's get stuff everyone knows out of the way first. Boogie Woogie is Aoi Todo's curse technique. When Todo performs a clapping motion, aka applause, he has the ability to switch positions with something in the surrounding area that has cursed energy. He can swap himself with a curse, himself with a sorcerer with a cursed tool. And on top of that, as we see during this fight, Boogie Woogie can also be used as a feint against opponents through Todo not even activating his technique despite him clapping. However, whilst this technique is flashy, amazing to watch and read, it is apparent that this technique does have some weaknesses, as expressed by Todo himself. If given enough time, Hanami would apparently be able to adapt to Boogie Woogie. And don't forget, this is Hanami we're talking about. Oh yeah, sure, I'll release my domain amplification, the one part of the plan I'm a part of. Todo believed that Hanami, this idiot, could possibly adapt to this version of Boogie Woogie, which says a lot. But that's not to say the technique wasn't effective, it clearly was, especially when in conjunction with two CQC kings like Todo and Yuji. With those two in play, this technique shines like a star. However, Boogie Woogie doesn't allow the duo to get the kill on Hanami, as Hanami just kind of eats a raw hollow pebble and somehow survives, which is a Toji's worm spirit level feat, which is insane. Now, throughout this fight, it's not really made apparent, but it is clear that since Todo is naturally such a kind of like a powerhouse, he is grade 1 and one of the youngest ones we see, his technique is more of a support ability, so it naturally relies on outside sources for it to work. So, you know, curses, sorcerers, cursed tools, etc. in the vicinity. If Todo is in a 1v1 as well, as we'll see later, he can only really change locations with his opponent and anything either he or his opponent imbues with cursed energy, making it significantly weaker. This technique almost requires an ally on the battlefield to be with him to reach anywhere near its maximum capabilities. Then we jump all the way to the middle of Shibuya. Todo shows up again and we get a couple more showings of Boogie Woogie to dive into. Now, the most intriguing moments with it are during Todo's small interaction with Mahito when he's on his own, and we have the anime-only Black Flash scene, aka the rock throw scene. And we also have to mention the last time we ever really see this version of Boogie Woogie mentioned. Now, throughout this initial fight with Mahito and Todo, we see Boogie Woogie being used to dodge and counter Mahito. Even when you know how it works, it's still so disorientating. This makes the pre-amputation version of Boogie Woogie look pretty nice. Until 7 pages later when Mahito kind of figures it out, saying he'll guess right eventually, pretty much. Granted, Mahito eats a Black Flash not long after this, but he quickly identifies Boogie Woogie can work with non-living targets as long as they have cursed energy. Now, I personally feel that this shows that what Todo himself thought, that high enough level cursed spirits could adapt to Boogie Woogie. Like, with enough time, Hanami could adapt, and Mahito especially could, and I feel like Mahito's next actions more than confirm that he could adapt, as he correctly identifies one of Boogie Woogie's major weaknesses besides the possibility for adaptation. It can't really do much against omnidirectional attacks such as domains, or in Mahito's case, this specific use of the body repel, and Boogie Woogie can't really do much about it due to its reliance on outside sources of cursed energy. Like, just look at this graphic I've made. In this scenario, if an attack is going in all directions, you know, this big circle, switching is pointless, as someone will always be in the range of the attack no matter who he swaps with. It gets even worse in 1v1s, tying again into its weakness. That's why the possibility of prep time, as we see later, can make Boogie Woogie almost undefeatable, as prep time would allow Todo to place things with cursed energy all over the battlefield that he can swap locations with at any time. But as there is no prep for this fight, as we see, Mahito correctly identifies this weakness of Boogie Woogie. Also, the aforementioned anime-only scene is pretty cool. Yuji imbues a rock with cursed energy, throws it, Todo swaps out with it and lands a Black Flash. In the manga, the scene is a lot different. Todo just swaps with a transfigured human before it's released, and Black Flashes Mahito. It's a lot less flashy, but it's still pretty cool. And now for the death of Boogie Woogie. As Todo states himself here, with the loss of his hand, Boogie Woogie is dead, and as a result, for a while, a lot of people thought Todo himself died along with it, but that wasn't the case. But before we see Todo fade out of existence for about 120 or 130 odd chapters, we get this nice little bluff, and it's pretty cool, and with that, Mahito gets black flashed and wrecked. Now, I ask you, what is Boogie Woogie like now, during the Shinjuku anti-Sukuna squad arc? Boogie Woogie revised, Re-Boogie Woogie, or Boogie Woogie 2 Electric Boogaloo. You're probably aware from the most recent chapters, the thumbnail for this video, etc. Todo's kind of got a new arm, and it takes the form of something called a Vibra Slap. Now, it plays off Todo's new form of Boogie Woogie, which is unique to say the least. To make a long story short, Todo formed a binding vow with himself to limit the amount of teleports he can execute to correlate with the amount of times the teeth in the Vibra Slap are chimed, which is estimated to be around 50 times a second. Now, this binding vow is pretty strange, as Todo didn't really seem to lose anything, but it fully revitalized his curse technique despite being dead, and it raised it to the level of being able to mess with the King of Curses to an insane degree. Also, it's really cool, just listen to this sound. Now, there are a couple of things I feel like I need to explain regarding Todo's new prosthesis, or whatever this is. So this is a Vibra Slap. Now, besides the cool sound it makes, just so you can kind of understand the new version of Boogie Woogie, I feel like I need to explain one thing that is rather unique about this musical instrument, as some of its finer details are hard to make out in the manga panels we see. When Todo, me, or whoever hits a Vibra Slap, it shakes the middle of this little box. Now, the thing that the manga panels struggle to show the reader is that inside this little box section is a row of small teeth, which are just like small little metal chimes, right? Now, the reason I bring this up is, as stated here, the activation of Boogie Woogie changed from applause to the teeth of the Vibra Slap being hit, or moving, right? And now, the reason it could possibly activate 50 times in a second is due to the small teeth on the inside of the Vibra Slap. So basically what I'm saying is, with one tap of the Vibra Slap, as long as the chimes are moving inside of the Vibra Slap's small box, each single tooth is chiming inside that box, and each chime is equivalent to one Boogie Woogie teleport. That's why this version of Boogie Woogie is so much more powerful and absurd than the original. Boogie Woogie, when activated through clapping hands or applause, is limited to a singular activation, and overall just comes down to like a 50-50 whether or not something will be switched and what specifically will be switched. Kind of like 2 yes or no's in a row. Now, he can switch and bluff those exact same questions around 50 times in a second. For example, the 24th chime out of 50 may be a bluff, and the 25th may switch Todo with Yuji. This is why Sukuna himself says that the technique is essentially impossible to adapt to, as Todo, as I explained, can swap as much or as little as he'd like. And as soon as Sukuna thinks he is adapted to this technique, Todo uses it to allow Yuji to land another Black Flash, which he's been doing quite frequently. Now, this was a technique that Todo thought Hanami could adapt to, the beautiful flower moron that he is. Todo thought that with enough time, Hanami could adapt to it. Now, times those teleportation capabilities by literally 50, and now even the King of Curses is getting straight mixed by this curse technique. I mean, this curse technique is the entire reason that the anti-Sukuna squad hasn't been wiped off the face of the planet yet, because it's not just been Ui assisting in the background, so is Todo, getting people out of the range of the malevolent shrine using Mei's crows. Now, it isn't the perfect ultimate curse technique, right? In essence, it still suffers from the same major drawbacks of requiring outside sources to activate, as well as being useless against domains without prep time, but despite that, with prep time and Yuji popping off, I feel like most people can agree this is one of the biggest glow-ups in Jujutsu Kaisen. Not as drastic as a glow-up like we saw with the construction curse technique between Mai and Yorozu. That was a glow-up of monstrous proportions, but this is a glow-up nonetheless. So, overall, old Boogie Woogie is flashy and fun, but lacks a lot of utility in 1v1s especially, and can be adapted to over time, and on top of that, it requires objects, sorcerers, spirits, etc. in the vicinity to switch with, or its efficacy is reduced significantly, meaning a Todo with Boogie Woogie and prep time could be a hell of a lot more effective, but it still isn't ideal against omnidirectional attacks due to this reliance on outside sources as well. However, in Shinjuku we see the new Boogie Woogie, Re-Boogie Woogie or Boogie Woogie revision, and it completely washes the previous version. It shoots out the water. It erases the weakness of possible adaptability and throws it out the window, and it's shown what Todo is capable of with prep time. Switching people out of domains using Mei's crows, it's ridiculous and cracked and so much more fun to me and unique than the previous version we saw. But maybe that's just me. I prefer this new version. If I missed anything, feel free to let me know. Let me know if you prefer the old Boogie Woogie or the new. That's the video. Toodles my doodles. Hopefully I see you in the next one. Peace.